أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We were discussing the rules of tahara, the rules of the najis things, and as we mentioned in the previous session that there are a few things, probably 10 of them, that are considered najis in Sharia. As far as the laws of Islam are concerned, these 10 things, they are known as intrinsic najasat. That means najisul ayn. Najisul ayn, now what's the difference between something that is najisul ayn and something that is mutanajjis? Now, for example, blood. Blood is najisul ayn. What do we mean by that? That means it cannot be made tahir. Alright? It cannot be made tahir by any means. By any means. Blood will not be considered tahir in any situation. So this is an intrinsic najasa. It is najisul ayn. Alright? That means najasat cannot be taken away from blood. But if my hand, it comes in contact with blood, then my hand would also become najis, right? But if I wash it, it will become tahir again. It will become pure again if I wash it, right? So this is the difference between najis and mutanajjis. So that's why we say that there are 10 things that are najis. That means if something that is a surface, any surface, if it's wet, if it comes in contact with these things, it will also be considered najis. It will be mutanajjis. The 7 things that we mentioned in the previous session was, the first one was urine, the second one feces, the third one semen, the fourth one was the dead body, corpse or carcass, and the fifth one was blood, the sixth and the seventh one were the dogs and the pigs. These are the 7 things that we mentioned in the previous discussion. Now today, mentioning the 8th thing is a disbeliever, someone who doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or someone who doesn't believe in oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if there is such a person who doesn't believe in God, or who doesn't believe in His oneness, in His tawheed, he will be considered as a disbeliever and will be ruled as najis, will be ruled as impure. This is the 8th thing that is considered impure, that is ruled as impure. So someone who doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or doesn't believe, that means someone who doesn't believe in God, and or someone who doesn't believe in his tawheed, in his oneness, will be considered najis. The same is the case with ghulat. That means those who consider Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam or any of the Imams alayhimus salam as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who upbring their status to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who consider them as God, consider one of the Imams or the Holy Prophet as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are known as ghulat. They are known as ghulat. They are also najis. The other category is the Khawarij and the Nawasib. That means those who show enmity towards any of the Imams. Now there are people of a few types. A few people who do not believe in their wilayah, who do not believe in their guardianship, or who do not believe in their imamah. Alright? But there are a few people, apart from not believing, they show enmity towards them. They curse them, wal-ayadhu billah, or they fight with them. During their times, they used to fight with such people. That means they used to fight with the holy Imams, with any one of the holy Imams. These are known as Nawasib or Khawarij. They are also considered najis. It's obligatory to, that means if a wet surface, if it comes in contact with such kind of people, one must wash it. One must wash it as it becomes impure. Okay. Now what about the people of the book? That means the Jews, the Christians, the Zoroastrians. What's the ruling regarding these people? They are known as the people of the book, Ahlul Kitab, people of the book. The Jews, the Christians, and the Zoroastrians. What's the rule regarding them? They are considered as pure. That means it's permissible for us to eat from what they have cooked, or it's permissible for us to, that means it will not be obligatory on us to wash the surface if it comes in contact with these people, the people of the book. So this is regarding the kafir, right? Now moving on to the ninth one, the ninth najis thing, which is wine. Wine is also najis. All right. Apart from wine, every intoxicant, all right, those things, even if now look here, there are two different things. One is najis, and other thing is unlawful to eat or unlawful to drink. Now certain things, they are not najis, but it's unlawful to eat or to drink. Like what? For example, a lion, when it's alive, it's not najis, all right? Or if it's slaughtered in an Islamic way, it's permissible to use its skin and all, right? But it's unlawful to eat its flesh, right? Similarly, here Sayyid Sistani Hafidhahullah, he says that wine is considered najis, it's impure, and it's unlawful to drink. All right, this is the hukum regarding wine. Every other intoxicant, they are not, that means they will not be considered impure, they will not be considered najis, even if it's unlawful for us to use them. That means it's unlawful for us to use other intoxicants other than wine. It's unlawful to eat or to drink or to use them or to smoke them, right? Even if it's unlawful, but they will not be considered impure. They will not be considered najis. So wine is najis, definitely. Now what about alcohol? Regarding alcohol, they say that alcohol, whether it be industrial or it be for a medicinal purpose, alcohol be industrial or medicinal, it is not impure, it's tahir, it is not najis. Alcohol is not najis, right? So this is the second thing regarding alcohol in all states, whether it be industrial or medicinal, it will be considered as pure. The third thing regarding the ninth najasa is beer that is known as fuqa, all right, that is extracted from barley or from wheat, all right, it's unlawful to drink it. Similarly, on an obligatory precaution, it's impure. It's impure that means it's not permissible to drink it, definitely, and on an obligatory precaution, it's also considered as impure. Now what do we mean here? Within brackets, one might question what is the difference between a fatwa and an obligatory precaution. Now here, regarding beer, Ayatollah Sistani, he gives a fatwa. What does he say? He says it's unlawful to drink. This is a fatwa. Now if I follow Ayatollah Sistani, it's not permissible for me to drink beer, right? And then he says, on an obligatory precaution, it is considered as najis. Now here, obligatory precaution is not a fatwa. Here what can I do? Here I can refer to any other marja, all right, who is a mujtahid, all right, who is a mujtahid, and I can refer to him, and if he has a fatwa in this situation, in this mas'ala. Now for example, taking the example of any marja, if he says that beer is pak, is tahir, it's pure, if he says this, then we can refer to that marja. But regarding drinking, we cannot refer to anyone. This is the difference between a fatwa and an obligatory precaution. In an obligatory precaution, a marja, what does he say? He says it's one must refrain from it as an obligatory precaution. What do you mean by that? That means if you find someone, if you find another mujtahid who has a fatwa regarding this, you can refer to him. You can refer to him. Right? So this is an obligatory precaution. Similarly, we have a recommended precaution. What do we mean by that? A recommended precaution is given after a fatwa. Now if you remember, we discussed in the previous session, we said that the urine and droppings of birds that are unlawful to eat, even if they are considered pure, but it's better to refrain from them. Better to refrain, that means, look, the words that are being used, they say it's recommended to refrain, it's better to refrain from them. That means the fatwa is that it's pure, but on a recommended precaution, it's better to stay away from it. It's better to consider them as najis. So this is the difference. This is the difference. So when a mujtahid, he gives a fatwa regarding a certain mas'ala, it is obligatory on us to follow the same mujtahid. Obligatory on us to follow the same marja. But if a mujtahid, if he gives an obligatory precaution regarding a mas'ala, if he gives an obligatory precaution that fulan, a certain thing is haram or a certain thing is najis on an obligatory precaution, then we can refer to some other marja and see if he has a fatwa or not. If he has a fatwa, it's permissible for us to take the fatwa from some other mujtahid who we do not follow. So this is the difference between a fatwa and an obligatory precaution. Again, a fatwa we cannot refer to someone else, because we must take the fatwa from the same mujtahid who we follow. But as far as an obligatory precaution is concerned, we can refer to someone else and we can take his fatwa. It's not that the other mujtahid should also give an obligatory precaution. No, if he has a fatwa, it's permissible for us to take the fatwa from him. So here, Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, what does he say? He says that on an obligatory precaution, beer is also considered as najis. It's considered as najis. So this is the 9th thing. The 10th thing that's obligatory, that is considered as najis, is the sweat of an animal that eats excrement. All right, sweat of an excrement eating animal is also considered najis. It's also ruled as najis. For example, taking the example of a camel again, because this is what is mentioned in his book. He says, taking the example of a camel, if a camel starts eating excrement, all right, starts eating najasa, its sweat will be considered najis. Its sweat will be considered impure. And similarly, other animals other than the camel on an obligatory precaution. Again, on an obligatory precaution. For example, a sheep, take the example of a sheep. If a sheep starts eating the excrement, all right, will its sweat be considered najis or not? Ayatollah Sistani, what does he say? He says on an obligatory precaution, it will be considered najis. Now here it's an obligatory precaution. Now, if we find a marja, I do not find anyone. If we find a marja who gives a fatwa, who says no, the sweat of a sheep will not be considered najis if it starts eating excrement, right? In this situation, because Ayatollah Sistani gives an obligatory precaution, we can refer to the fatwa of another marja. We can refer to him. So these are the 10 things that are considered najis. Okay, now they are najis. A dog is najis, a pig is najis, urine, feces, semen, blood, corpse, all these things, they are najis, right? Now, how does najasa, it transfers from these things to other things? For example, take the example of my hand. How does najasa, how will it transfer from these najis things to my hand? He says the transfer of najasa, there is a condition that one or both the surfaces, all right, one or both the surfaces, they be wet. Whether one of them or both of them, they be wet in a way, the wetness should be in a way that the najasa, it transfers from one body to the other, from one surface to the other. This is known as, this is the way of transferring of najasa. Now, if something is transferred in such a way, now for example, take the example of my hand, right? If it becomes najis because it came in contact with blood, all right? Now, I wet my other hand and I make it come in contact with the previous one, which was najis. Now, if both my hands come in contact in such a way that one of them or both of them be wet, here is the transfer of najasa. Here, the najasa will transfer from this part of my hand to the other part of my hand that comes in contact with the najis hand, right? So this is how the najasa is transferred. Okay, now you might ask, now my right hand, it became najis. It became najis. Now, after when it dried, my a wet piece of cloth, right, or my clothes, they were wet, right? And my second hand, because this was the first hand that was najis, right? My right hand came in contact with the left one and it became najis. Now, my wet clothes, they come in contact with my right hand, they will also become najis, right? Now, if something else comes in contact with my wet clothes, will not become najis, because the transfer of najasa is limited to two surfaces, to two intermediaries, right? Again, the najasa, it transferred from my right hand, from my left hand to the right one. So the right one became najis. Again, the najasa transferred from my right hand to my wet clothes. So the clothes, they became najis. Now, if something else which is wet, if it comes in contact with my clothes, right? Here, that the other surface that came in contact with my clothes will not become najis. Why? Because there are najasa is transferred only the limited mediums, they are two. Within two mediums, the right hand was the first one and the clothes are the second one. Now the clothes will not transfer any najasa to any other wet surface, right? So this is also a rule regarding the transfer of najasa. It's not that if my hand came in contact with the left one, it became najis, and then the clothes, and then the table, and then the chairs, and then everything that comes in contact with it, it starts becoming najis. No, it's only limited to two surfaces. Okay. Now another mas'ala regarding this. If someone doubts, now what happened in the first situation? In the first case, what happened? My left hand, it became najis because it came in contact with blood, for example, right? And then my right hand, it came in contact with the left one. Okay. Now I doubt whether one of these two surfaces was wet or not. That means whether the najasa, it got transferred from the left hand to the right hand or not. I'm doubting. Now, if there is such kind of a doubt, then the right hand, the other surface, will be considered as pure, will be considered as tahir. It will not be regarded as najis if I'm doubting. So if we doubt in anything, that whether this surface, did it become najis or not. If we doubt, then the surface will be considered as pure. It will be considered as a pure surface, and it will not be regarded as impure. It will not be regarded as najis. So this was regarding the laws of tahara. And now coming on to the later part of our discussion, which is regarding the month of the holy month of Ramadan. The first two things that we mentioned 8 things in the previous discussion that invalidate a fast. That means, let's revise those 8 things once again. The first one was eating and drinking. The second one was sexual intercourse. The third one is masturbation. The fourth one is to attribute or to ascribe something, some false things to Allah or to the Prophet or to any of the Ma'sumin alayhimus salam. To ascribe false things to these people will invalidate one's fast. The fourth thing, this was the fourth thing. The fifth thing is to cause thick dust enter into our throat. Thick dust, if it enters our throat, this will also invalidate our fast. The sixth one is to remain in the state of janaba or to remain in the state of hayd for a woman who became pure from her blood that she saw for the previous 6 or 7 or 8 days, and after becoming pure she intentionally did not do the ghusl of hayd. Similarly, a person who became junub before the adhan and he did not intentionally remained in that state of janaba until the call of prayer for the morning prayers, until the adhan time, right? So this is the sixth one. The seventh one is to apply liquid enema, and the eighth one is to vomit intentionally. If someone vomits intentionally, it will invalidate one's fast. So these are the 8 things. Now, apart from these 8 things, anything that we do will not invalidate our fast. Anything that we do will not invalidate our fast. Now, for example, if we brush our teeth, it will not invalidate our fast. If we apply oil to our hair, it will not apply, because these are the questions, because people they call and they ask these kind of questions. So it's better for them to remember these 8 things and to stay away from these 8 things. That's it. The every other thing other than these 8 that I mentioned, they will not invalidate one's fast, right? So if someone takes a bath, if someone uses the bathroom or takes a bath during the month of Ramadan, it will not invalidate his fast, right? Or someone colors his hair, it will not invalidate the fast, right? Now, regarding as far as eating and drinking is concerned, as I mentioned, if someone brushes his teeth, now if he intentionally, when he uses water, all right, during that means while brushing his teeth, and he intentionally swallows the water, or he swallows the toothpaste, he intentionally does that, this will also invalidate his fast. Why? Because this is also considered as eating or drinking. He ate the toothpaste or he drank the water. So this is also a part of eating and drinking. Similarly, if someone wants to taste the food, now it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon and you're preparing the food for iftar, right? Now you want to taste the food, whether the salt and the spices, they are in a proper manner or not. It's permissible for you to taste it. It's permissible for you to taste it. You taste the food and you taste it with your tongue. You don't taste the food with your stomach, right? Or with your throat. And after tasting it, you spit it. Spit it in such a way that any part of the food, it should not remain in your mouth, or it should not go behind the area of your tongue, that is your throat. If it doesn't enter the throat, the fast will be all right, it will be valid. All right. So this is regarding tasting of food. One can just taste it and then spit the food. Now, if someone knows that if I taste the food, it will go inside my throat, here it's obligatory for this person to restrain from tasting the food, because if it goes, his fast will become invalid. Why? Because he knew that if I taste it, it will eventually, it will go, that means it will go into my throat, and it will be considered as eating or drinking. He knew it. And even if he knew it, he tasted, and while he tasted, it went into his throat. Here the fast will become invalid. So these are a few masail regarding eating and drinking, and we will discuss them thoroughly inshallah in the next lesson. هذا وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.